Greetings, travelers. It's just past time for your New Year's resolutions, but today I don't think of time of resolutions. I think January is a different time. And that's just kind of the way I was raised. I think it goes back to my family roots over in the Slavic areas. Of course, it ties to Appalachia, but I think we really got to go back to some of the Swedish stuff too. Some of the Alps have some very interesting traditions around this time too. So it's all mountains. We've got snows, all those places. So let's just talk about this because the mountains, they remember a lot more than they like to let on. We'll start in the Austrian mountains there, and that's the Perchtenlauf, or from Perchte, and that's when it comes rolling down the valleys in early January, and it goes through mid-January. And tell me if this doesn't sound familiar. Everybody wears great horn masks. They carry bells, and they stomp through the snow and drive out the old year's spirits, and they bang on the pots and pans and ring the bells. And they used to say that the Perchte, which are the Perchten, which related to Perchte, the snow witch, the Perchten were these Slavic winter ghosts and spirits. And they were kind of like mischievous fae-kin, and they would travel on the wind, and they would breach every little hollow, and you would feel them, especially on the especially cold nights. Yeah, they were just this old spirit of winter, and you had to chase them away. I remember one of our grandmothers used to say something up there on the ridge line, ring out with cowbells, not church bells, but something older and heavier than a classic cowbell. And on the coldest nights, you could hear it drifting across. Kind of a crazy thing. I'm not sure if that tied into that, but to me, it did. The Perchten, we've talked about them. They're similar to the Yule lads. In some of our Christmas stories we've talked about, they're just mischievous creatures that don't like you staying inside. They want to lure you outside to do naughty things to you. It's sound familiar to the Fakin? Now, over on the Slavic side, we have Svyatki, which basically stretches from early January into around the 20th, 19th, 20th of January. And that's that time from Epiphany to Theophany. I'm sure I mispronounced that. Basically until the first good thaw. On Appalachia, they called it the listening days, if I recalled. That's just when you had that right after Old Christmas. Just you heard whispers everywhere and you wanted to kind of pay attention. They weren't really ghosts, but they were kind of just leftover spirits. And you just kind of drifted through the hollers like a fog. You would notice dogs just staring off into corners of the room, horses refusing to leave the barn, lamps flickering without drafts. Now, the Slavic area, this was a time for reflecting on year past, but also looking forward to the year future. So there were some casting stuff done. I know we talked about it before for Old Christmas, was you dripped hot wax into cold water, and it would maybe make some shape that you could determine your future from. Slavic tradition, it was about reading shadows or doing mirror scrying, staring into the mirror and seeing what kind of future, usually a future sweetheart or something like that. And it really wasn't about the new year and making a resolution. It was about thinking ahead, but also looking back. It's an interesting time. Now that we've turned it all into New Year's resolutions and stuff like that, and resetting your life and doing all that over here, it's not so much. I remember one of our Appalachian traditions around this was that you put a bowl of water by the window to see if it froze smooth or if it cracked. And I think if it froze smooth, it was supposed to be a peaceful year. And if it was cracked, you were supposed to have a troubled one. I don't remember 100%. I did hear about one of my cousins who said that on Svyatki nights, she would see figures standing at the tree lines, usually tall and thin and wrapped in fur and usually wearing a mask, sometimes carved from wood. And she would blink and they would disappear. And I remember just being fascinated by that story. And now modern me goes, ooh, we were talking about something very spooky at the time. I don't know. I'm going to have to get back into that. I'm going to have to look into that area. I'm wondering if there be any tracks out there or something for that. Life goes on. That's how things go. So that's January. It's not a time for retrospective and rebuilding. It's a time for listening. And we're going to listen some more. We got to do that after the break. All right. January dragging on. The nights get quieter, not safer. In the Alps, we had the Perchten gathering for one last run, and the Slavic lands, the spirits of Svyatki are making their final wanderings. Now, in Appalachia, this is when the mountains hold their breath. The haints, and the boogers, and the winter walkers, and whatever name you gave them, they seem to just kind of be close. They're testing the walls. They're listening for weakness. Everybody staying inside. We packed the fire high. We hung threads over the doors, red threads. That was something brought over from the old world and just kept alive. And you'd keep that red thread over the door so that you could tell if something was coming in. Sometimes you'd hear hoofbeats out on the frozen ground. Kept your Bible handy and a hickory stick in the other hand. And when the dawn comes, you make sure there was no hoofs or anything outside. As we get to the end of January and here around the 20th and moving on, it's like someone flips a switch. February is creeping in. Now in Celtic areas, they call February 1st Imbolc, which is the first light, the first lambs, the first hope. And of course, in the Christian calendar, it's Candlemas, when the candles are blessed and the darkness is pushed back. We've kind of got our own here in Appalachia. Sweep the hearth clean, check the fences for the first time since deep winter. Children were supposed to watch the sky at dusk because if the clouds glow pink, the spirits are losing their grip. If the clouds grow gray, it's still going to have a lot of winter left. And the bells, well, they just stop in February, just like that. It's like the Perchten finished their run, the Svyatki spirits return to their realm. It's, everything's calming down. We're getting through winter. Here we are telling stories older than the hills. We're here, different lands, different names. It's all the same winter truths. Nights are the longest. The world grew thin and the light's returning and the shadows are retreating. It's Imbolc, Candlemas are drawing near. The mountains, whether Austrian or Russian or Appalachians, and Romanian, we just kind of got the same thing. The dark is fading, the light is coming back. And it's this across the cultures and the centuries, a remarkably consistent picture is emerging that January is not a month of noise and rejuvenation. It's a month of restraint. It's watching the weather. It's guarding thresholds. It's choosing words carefully. We tend the fires. We look to our dreams. Small actions are given meaning because this year has just arrived. It can shape the year. And, that old wisdom lingers. It's attention to our candlelight. It's reluctance to rush. It's this strange heaviness of January, and we need to get it over with. So January is not a beginning. It's just a threshold. And thresholds are places you cross slowly with your eyes open, and we'll see you on the other side.